Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Command Q, the podcast for quitters. We're your hosts, Maury Casey.
And I'm John Pelfrey.
And you couldn't have convinced us in college, but you don't need booze to have a good time. A lot of people are rethinking their relationship with alcohol. There's a whole sober, curious movement taking place full of people who want to make healthier choices, avoid hangovers, and save money. But what the heck are they supposed to do on a Saturday night? Today's guest has a brilliant answer to that. Please welcome the founder of Umbrella Dry Bar, Meg Paradise.
What is your drink of choice?
Well, I have a cocktail. It's called I'll Have What Meg's Having, and it's amazing. So that's an easy one. It has a really beautiful product in it called Rasa Soda. That's the brand name. Rose bergamot is the flavor profile. It's very earthy. They use traditional Chinese medicine as their root, the way that they build their product. So that's the base in the product. It also has a rose cordial. I love floral, rosy, still balanced, not just perfume and sweet. It has lavender bitters and it has fresh lime juice in it. You shake that up, get really frothy, pour it in a coupe, and then top it with Elevate Beauty Water. That's a product that's out of Austin, Texas. I love them. They're super sweet. And the beauty water is rose and strawberry. So it's like a sparkling water, has adaptogens in it and no sugar, 10 calories, really good everyday drink. So that makes it just really pretty, and sprinkle with rose petals on top. So we had that originally on a secret menu. You could order it. And then when we opened up the brick and mortar, it was on there. It was very popular. So that is what I actually drink. I created that drink. It's really yummy and it has all my favorite products in it.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I love rose too.
Can you give us an idea or an estimation or a concept about what is a dry bar?
It's a new-ish concept and we're still defining it ourselves. But for me, it's just a space where you can go and have the same experience as you would have at a traditional cocktail bar. It just doesn't have alcohol there. So the cocktails that we're making don't use traditional alcohol.
What made you realize that there was a need for something like that?
It came to me as a dream. It came to me as a lucid dream. It's really wild, actually. Now I can see how it unfolded to get to this point. But I have 2 young kids, 6 going on 7 and 4. So 2 boys. And so that's when I first stopped drinking, was when I was pregnant through pregnancies. And before that, I was always really conscious about what I was consuming. I worked at Whole Foods. I grew up in Seattle. My parents are pretty crunchy. We love cooking together. That was always a part of identity and at my core. But then I also was still drinking. And then when I was pregnant, I wasn't drinking for extended periods of time. And in the beginning of that, it felt, oh man, this is so strange. Everything felt very weird to me because I was still doing all of my exact same activities. I was still going to the bar with my friends. I was still doing all of these things, just not drinking at all. And being in all of these environments where there's lots of drinking was very eye-opening and strange. And it was, oh my gosh, is that me? Is this actually me normally?
Is this what I look like on the other, if it was flipping?
Yeah, the mirror was, whoa, okay. Really powerful. And then after a couple months was like, gosh, this is amazing. I'm growing a human inside of my body. I get to do all of these things for this person. I'm able to give it the best thing by doing the best things for myself. What an incredible and powerful gift. That mindset shift really changed everything for me. And then I really loved my pregnancy and felt so connected to my body, felt so connected to my baby. And then after that, when my baby was born, people are still, woohoo, like now you can drink again. Congrats. Here's a bunch of bottles of champagne. Someone actually gave me a case of champagne.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I also not sleeping, so I don't know if this is the best.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I personally couldn't be going back to the same way that I was drinking previously because sleep is so valuable. If you want to be really healthy, you want to be really cognizant of what I'm modeling for my baby, who is still, yes, it's a baby, but let's go on walks. Let's be outside. That also gave me the perspective of your baby is not the one who's saying, I want to be in bed for an hour because of the choices that you made the night before. I worked at Whole Foods, as I think I said. Their headquarters are in Austin. And so I went on a trip. And at that time, my kids are at home with my husband. I'm going on a work trip. They're set up with everything that they need. I could actually do whatever I want to. And so I was also reading a book at the same time, Quit Like a Woman, which is really interesting, a really good book. And I was reading that on the plane and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try this work trip and just not drink. I did everything with our group that I normally would, except just didn't have alcohol, and also getting regular amounts of sleep. I felt so good.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So I'd wake up early, go to the gym, feel so turned on and on point and contributing to the meetings, and felt so clear and sharp and like with it. In the book, it was all about adding more positive things into your life. What can you keep adding and adding until there's not really space for toxic things? And that just really resonated with me. I wasn't saying I'm going to never drink again. It was just, I'm going to try this on this trip. And that felt great. And then, okay, well, I'm going to try a personal experiment and just being more consciously aware of how those experiences felt and what worked, what didn't work, what was uncomfortable. I can do this again. And it just was confidence boosting in a way. The whole entire process was really just getting more in touch with myself and feeling more in touch with my intuition. And so to finish the story, at the end of the book, it was saying, wouldn't it be great if there were more places that you could socialize without alcohol? And I was reading it right before bed, and I'm reading 3 pages before bed and falling asleep. And so that supplanted into my subconscious. I woke up at like 3:00 in the morning and had this lucid dream where I was like, okay, yeah, I want to go to this place. What does it look like? Who's there? What are we serving? What would it be called? And went through the whole progression to get to umbrella. So it was, what keeps you dry? Umbrella, dry bar. And as soon as I woke up in the morning, I wrote everything about it, everything that I could remember from that lucid dream. And 3 weeks later from the LLC after that, and then was on this mission, not knowing where that would take me or what the path was just like, I want to open up this space because I want it to exist. I want to go someplace where I can have a social experience in a really beautiful environment and feel that's not weird to not drink alcohol at that place, which sometimes it can feel awkward and uncomfortable. I feel like I've just been talking to more and more people over the past couple of years who say, yeah, I want that to exist too, or I've been thinking about that. And I believer of people's thoughts, put that into the collective consciousness, and people pick it up and turn it into concepts.
I do feel whenever you have an idea, I always think if I have an idea, I'm not the only one that's having it, that there's other people out there that are going to be like, yes, because you think sometimes, am I the only person that feels this way? And there's multiple people out there that are having the same thoughts. And it's interesting because I think there's been this change with the younger generation of people who are much more aware of what they are putting into their bodies, from beauty products and makeup to drinks. And it does feel very counterproductive if you're thinking about it. Oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy organic fruits and vegetables, and I'm going to buy grass-fed beef, and then I'm going to drink this flu and feel crap the next day.
Why? That doesn't make sense.
And then I'm going to get up again. I'm going to have my fresh Americano that's canned. Just doesn't match up.
I've got my red light mask on with a glass of white wine. I'm giving myself a headache? Yeah, that doesn't feel good.
That actually brings up a little question for me. Since you worked at Whole Foods, I can tie this together with that. Whole Foods is synonymous with this idea of luxury grocery shopping in a way. People go, it's a lifestyle. It's not just like going to your local grocery store in a lot of ways. And people buy into that sort of like eating healthy. I'm going to pay a premium for these foods because I know where they come from, and and all of that kind of thing. Do you think that this was just the natural evolution next step in that I'm getting healthy, I'm spending my money on good food, I'm prioritizing my body, my health? Is this just the next evolution?
I think so. It's one of many things that kind of are like a thread from that. I would say this is one of them, one of probably many, but yeah, absolutely. It is. It's not just on the weekends I do this, or at this time I do this. It really is incorporating it into a lifestyle. And that's why it's an investment. And the more, it's not just money, but more so even time that you can attribute to putting good things into your body or things that are good for your body, the overall better result you'll have. And it doesn't always have to be at a premium. It's something where you have to really, you'll see more benefits from the more that you're doing, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, there was maybe been a shift post COVID to where a lot of people started to really look at themselves. We all had to sit around with ourselves for several months on end, right? And start to evaluate what are our priorities, what's important to me, and all of that hit at the same time. And for me, one of my priorities was to get into really good shape. We've started to see that people are investing in themselves. They're investing in their health. I have more friends now than ever that actively talk about going to trainers, to dietitian. I used to see it as an expense, and now I see it as an investment in my future. Preventative medicine, as far as I'm concerned, in some ways.
Absolutely. To just follow up with that, the end side of it, you do pay for it in many other ways down the line if you're not preventing it with
Right.
dollars, time, pain, etc.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then there's also the next day paying for it, not feeling well, all of that. I want to go back to the dream. You get this idea, you get the LLC, you start to formulate this plan. What was the response from your closest friends and family about this idea?
Controversial, divided, I would say. As I said, I grew up in Seattle, so my parents still live there. They're extremely supportive. I have a very good relationship with them. And so we're able to really talk through it and be like, I don't really know what that looks, but I'm going to try. And they don't blindly support. They're tell us more, just asking questions, which is really beautiful. It's actually the best type of support you could possibly ever want or have. My husband was less supportive and we're now divorced primarily because of that, actually, honestly, because it was more so that's a terrible idea. Nobody will want to go to that. You have a great job. Why would you quit your job to do this? And I don't want to not calling him out for that or anything like that, but it just felt in a way where it wasn't supportive of me as a person. I would have been okay if I would never go to that. So happy that you have this idea. Like, I support you that you want to try. I'm not your customer, but you go do you. But it wasn't that. It's actually really the opposite. So I felt, as I said, it came to me in a dream, and then all of these things just started rolling out in front of me. Like, is 100% what I'm supposed to be doing. And even though the space isn't exactly final version right now, I 100% know with absolute confidence that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you were talking about in the beginning, a lot of people fall off. And that was more than just a drinking buddy and a weekend friend. This is like a 12-year long marriage. So but yeah, things fall off. And that was probably a pretty extreme example, but I feel so called to do this that to me, it was worth it.
It definitely, we talked to a lot of, John and I say we're professional quitters, but we've talked to a lot of people who find that vision, and it is rare to be able to have that. So I think I've had that with business I've built. And when you meet somebody who has that, sometimes it can be very polarizing because it's so different than what a lot of people get to experience. I think it's clear that it's something that's driving you forward. And I think when things fall in place like that, it's supposed to be built. And just like anything that's supposed to be built, sometimes it falls apart and it comes back together, and it falls apart and it comes back together. Building a business post-COVID has been bananas. Uncompany's 10 years old, but it's still, the last 5 years have been, I don't know what's going to happen this quarter, guys. Very unpredictable. So kudos to you to hanging on for the ride during a really crazy time. But I do feel the interesting thing in the part that we wanted to talk to you about further is just like how people's socialization changes throughout their life, but then how it's changed after COVID. Because I know you've had both the brick and mortar, and now you're doing pop-ups and events and things like that, but you've probably really seen that too. First of all, being a mother and having children is very isolating because you're inside and it's just all about the kid all the time in a great way, but it can be very isolating. And I think the interesting thing was after COVID, where we were so isolated for a whole year, and then in a way, socially isolating, even on how we're different political parties and different beliefs and systems like that. What a wonderful time to build a place for people to come together. So I think I'd love to hear what you've seen and how people interact in the different stages of life where you felt very isolated and how you needed to find a space to feel comfortable and connect.
That's truly like the purpose behind all of it, is to find a place that's a meeting ground, honestly. So I felt in those first stages, it was really binary for me. Two choices. It was one, you are on your healthy path, you're on your track, you're going walking, you're doing all your things, check, but you're doing it by yourself. Or, okay, we have a babysitter, so now we're going out and we're going to dial it up to 12 because we're paying for a babysitter. And neither one of those things is great. Neither one of those things felt great to me. I know both of them are actually how lots of people live their lives, but for me, I needed the middle ground. So that's really the entire intention behind Umbrella, is it doesn't have to be binary. It's this gray space in between, and you take from it what you want. We're getting more into weddings and big private events, galas, charity type things where there's hundreds of people. And it's really cool to me to, first of all, be able to do these sorts of events, be able to pull that off and execute it. But secondly, that people are actually seeking that out. For a long time, we just had an intake form on our website, or people would be emailing us. And now we have an events coordinator who's actually leading the charge on that, which is really nice. But it's because there's already so much interest without any really promotion.
That does raise a question, just generally, since you're doing big events and weddings and things. And that is, a lot of people use alcohol as a way to lubricate, to relax, to get to the point where they have the guts to go out on the dance floor and dance even though they don't. Or at a networking event to go meet people, and just you get a drink in you and it relaxes you a little bit, and then it just frees you up a little bit to talk and meet new people and things. How do you generate that same kind of atmosphere or vibe and get people mingling, talking, or on the dance floor or whatever it might be in a non-alcoholic sort of setting?
Okay, so a couple things. One, we do have some functional products that are designed to be mood uplifting, mood boosting. So we don't have any THC. We don't offer any THC drinks in our lineup, but we do have a lot of things with adaptogens. So Damiana and lion's mane mushroom, a lot of these things are just great they make you feel good. A lot of things are just euphoria. You're not going to feel high, but you're going to feel a little bit something. You might feel a little bit chattier. You might feel a little more focused. You might feel a little bit more social. And we have drinks designed specifically for that. So if someone's looking for that, if they're looking for that for their event, we will create drinks with those as the base. Secondly, if people are going into that situation knowing that this is the baseline, everyone's going to be in the same boat. I think that's also makes it a little bit easier to know that. Mm-hmm. And then thirdly, even just having something in your hand, something as simple as having something really beautiful in your hand, is almost that security blanket to an extent. And the cocktails that we create are so beautiful and interesting and stunning. It's also a conversation starter too, in the same way that craft cocktails can be when you're going out for drinks. What is that? Or look at this crazy rim that they're doing on this. How would you ever have thought of that? Or what's this technique? This one's clarified. What does that mean? Look at the pink foam on this. How do you think they made that? It's not just a boring non-alcoholic drink. It's not just sparkling water with cranberry juice or something. It's not that. So my favorite event that we did at the brick and mortar space on Martin Street was called the Single Mingle. And it blew my mind, and it might make me emotional talking about it because it was so beautiful. I started this off as just a way of saying, I think it's really cool if people can interact, date, start that process without alcohol, because there's so many avenues of where I think not having alcohol is important, just because you're getting more in touch with yourself. But if you're able to also have that conscious connection with somebody else, the expansive nature of that, of what that relationship can be that isn't masked by alcohol, or that's how this was started, or this is all we do together. Again, as you're saying, some of your friends dropped off the map. But to be able to go somewhere, probably by yourself without alcohol, and start talking to somebody that you may be interested in without alcohol, all of these things are very challenging. And so I was like, how can I help facilitate this and make it feel safe and comfortable and get people excited about this? Because at the same time, there's a million people who are like, I want to meet someone. I'm ready to have someone that I can connect with on a real level, actually really connect with someone. And to be able to have a space where you can have those sort of connections is really a driving force to me. Really important to be able to create that sort of a container. And so I started off never doing that before, being a little social connector. So I started off, and I forget where I even posted it, probably on Eventbrite or something like that, but just putting it as a mixer and seeing who was coming. There were a lot of people that came, tons. And then there was a gentleman who came in named Jarush, and he has an app called Ship, and that he's created. When you're in person, it matches you with other people that are in the room. So the really untechnical way to explain it is everyone has the app. It's press start and then be like, okay, Meg, you're matched with Frank, and he is standing by the bar, and then you walk towards each other. As soon as you get to each other, and it reveals the pictures. Oh, look, here's Frank. Is that the person that's standing in front of you? And then it has a couple icebreaker questions if you want to use them. You don't have to. And then at the end, it'll say it's 5 minutes, a lightning round kind of thing. It'll say, do you want to continue the conversation? You say yes or no. And if you both say yes, then you're out. Then you're out of the next round. If one person says no, back in the round, and you can sit out a round too. But it's speed dating, but walking around through a bar, and we would have the drinks for it. And capacity at the old space was 70 seats and the capacity was 95. We would have to close it. We couldn't have other people in there. It ended up being a private event. That many people were RSVPing and mingling around the bar without alcohol, just going, and it's beautiful. It was really cool. It's something I'm really proud of, to be able to say, look how many people came to those multiple events to meet someone. I loved it. It was really pretty.
One of the things we were talking about was just the idea of singles nights at bars, where all the girls would, or ladies' night, all the girls would go, but how it's been a long time since I've been to a bar to meet somebody. I've been married for 18 years, so I'm not doing that. Hopefully not. But one of the things that is always tricky, and I think it's gotten even worse, is as a woman, when you're out there by yourself trying to meet people, which is why women always travel in packs of girls, right? It doesn't feel safe. It's not as safe, and it's not as, you can't have a real conversation, because then it's also people are in these little packs, and it's, I need to perform for my group, and I also want to meet somebody. But there's a level of complexity there that I do think when you're going to a bar and there's alcohol involved, then of course that gets amped up, because then you're uncomfortable and you're trying to perform for multiple groups. So I could see an event where there is no alcohol involved, like all those walls can come down a little bit, because you're here, you're on the same footing, you're a different type of person if you're going to an event like this where there is no alcohol served. So I'm guessing it created a safe place to actually go and meet people. And that's the purpose why we're here. We're here to meet people. I think that's really cool.
Exactly. And it's also a place not just for those types of events, but also a really safe place for when you want to just have a first date and you don't want it to be at a coffee shop, but you don't necessarily want to have alcohol clouding your first date. There's so many people that I have met over the past couple of years who I would go and make sure that I would get there first and order something that looked like a drink and not have a drink, because I wanted to be able to do this. And you shouldn't have to pretend that you're drinking. That is so silly. It's the silliest thing. So I want to wipe that away. We don't have to pretend that we're drinking. We can just not drink and talk about it. Have it be out in the open. And you can drink, just to be able to go in there and just be really clear and transparent, and to be able to, as I was saying, really my purpose is to be able to offer these spaces, these drinks, these options, these offerings in a way where it doesn't feel fringe. It doesn't feel off. It's just normal. That's mainstream. This is, you want it, you don't want it. It's just another option.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought about going to the bar and getting there early. Maybe that's something that ladies might think of more
it's a girl thing.
than guys.
Yeah.
I think
This is from men. Actually,
Oh, really?
from a few people, all men, and not just for dates, but also at conferences. They would go to, if they have a big drinking culture at work, and they're like, I don't really want to be drinking till 2:00 in the morning. They'd go to the bar first, give them $50 and be like, hey, every time I look at you, I just want soda with lime. And so people think that I'm drinking. That is terrible. Like, that is such a terrible statement.
Yeah.
Just in general, to think that someone, and these are powerful men. These are people who, in building cultures, building businesses, building these things, and they felt still uncomfortable in these environments to a point where they have to hide. It's not cool, or is not acceptable, or people would give them a hard time. I don't want to live in that world. I'm trying to make it so that you don't have to do that. You don't have to hide that you're not drinking. You can drink if you want to. You can also not drink if you want to. Like,
right. Yeah. There's no judgment.
Yeah, autonomy.
I feel the thing that's been interesting too with just the movement of non-alcoholic drinks, and we were talking about this before, is just that they are interesting now, right? And John brought up a restaurant that he went to in Durham, and there was a whole menu of non-alcoholic drinks that were interesting. That wasn't just like pineapple juice poured over ice with a little thing on top. And I do think that's one thing that makes a big difference. And it was interesting hearing you talk about the I'll have what Meg's having drink. I'd love to hear you talk more about the drinks and what people, as far as the drinks on your menu, are they different? Are they rotating? Or do people kind of gravitate towards certain types of drinks that you've noticed?
And I want to hear about the pink foam one. Tell me about that one.
What is the pink foam?
Yeah.
Dragon fruit. So I have a business partner, Charlie, who is so creative. He's incredible. And he is truly a scientist. He went to Amherst and is just absolutely brilliant. And he has taken all of these sciencey type things and translated that into drink culture. And so he's the one who makes the pink foam. And he's the one who's making all of the most interesting drinks. He has a wide array of equipment and creativity that just makes everything really, truly stand out. So that's, I would say, the biggest differentiator is just, it's taking the products that we offer in our bottle shop and using them, but then also additional bar techniques that are very cool, using a rotovap, using these types of equipment, centrifuge, these sort of things that are going to take really interesting seasonal ingredients and to highlight them in the drink. And the garnish, we work with a farm in South Raleigh where we get all of our edible flowers that we use for our drinks. We get a lot of produce from the farmers market. We just walk around what looks yummy, what is seasonal, and then take it and then build something from there. So it's really more of what's available and then turning it into the drink. We're doing a couple really fun drinks for St. Patrick's Day. We have a large bank with 300 employees. They're doing a happy hour sort of lunch break kind of thing on actual St. Patrick's Day. So we're able to do some really fun, interesting, unique St. Patrick's Day green, fun themed drinks. But again, in the middle of the work day and everyone's feeling good. So it's really cool to be able to do that. We also have been working with some local bars and restaurants and hotels to be able to help expand their menu as well. So distribute to them some base products, but then also do training with their teams on how to utilize that and also consult on their menu creation as well. Because there is such a wide array of non-alcoholic products, and a lot of them are really not good. So, we have tasted through pretty much all of them. We get sent samples all the time, and we have great relationships with our vendor partners. And so we're able to say, these are the ones that are good. These are the ones that are great. These ones will probably do well with your audience, and then taste through them with that bar team and then help them create some drinks from there. So that's a fun aspect. But it's really people right now, they're looking for fun and functional and low sugar. So we have a section that has your 1-for-1 alternatives. So you have your bourbon alternative, your tequila alternative. You can make a margarita, you can make an old fashioned with these products, and they're going to taste pretty similar to what you'd expect as long as you're making a margarita, you're using fresh lime juice, you're still going through that entire process. You can make a great margarita that way. But there's a lot of sort of the other side of the spectrum are drinks that aren't trying to be something else. They're not trying to be tequila. We're just original. We're just a non-alcoholic spirit. You can use it to make a cocktail. It's complex and interesting and unique ingredients that are blended together in that way. And if it has additionally functional properties to it, so again, one sort of designed to wind you down, some with ashwagandha, some that are more stress reducing, anxiety reducing, nervous system balancing, or the party starter, mood uplifting, let's go. We have a spectrum from that. That's more so what people are looking for.
I want to try something that I've never thought of before.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
We've got three more questions. The goal here is for you to give us a brief, quick answer, whatever comes to the top of your head. All right. So our lightning round. Can you quickly explain adaptogens? What are they and how do they work?
Sure. So they're herbs or different types of plants that are designed as stress resistant. And by consuming them, they're going to help your body with stress. So someone had to explain this once to me, and it's the best example that really resonated with me. If you're going to a mountain and it's just rocks and in a crack, one little flower shooting up, you're like, how's that flower living? Because it has no soil, no nutrients, but it's still really beautiful and able to do this thing. That is a plant that probably is an adaptogen. It has medicinal type properties and then when we consume those same things, it will help our body. And it's another thing too, where dose makes the poison, but it's more so compounding. So you have one drop one day, your life isn't going to change, but you continuously consume a small amount every day is going to exponentially make you feel better. And if you have a large dosage on a certain time, maybe you'll feel something more spectacular. So
that's fascinating. All right, next question. Give us your top 3 near beers or liquor alternatives.
So I just never have really been a beer girl for starters. So I'm going to give my just other alternatives that are favorites. So Curious Elixirs is a really awesome brand. They're ready to drink cocktails. Number 9 is my favorite. So that's really nice. It's ready to drink. You don't have to do anything to it except keep it cold and pour it in a pretty glass. And that one I love because it's rose with some lime, and it also has canna with a K, not cannabis, but South African canna, which is again one of these other adaptogens. It's just going to make you feel floaty and feel good and chit chatty and just have a good feeling. So Curious number 9 is one that's my favorite. Rada is that other brand that I was talking about that's in the I'll Have What Meg's Having cocktail. I love this brand. They're from Brooklyn. I love the founder. I talk with him all the time, what his goals are, but I love the product because it's great for longevity and it's the product that we carry that has the most integrity in the way that it's produced and the ingredients, where they're sourced from. To me, that sourcing integrity is really important. So that is at the absolute top of the list. So Rasa Spada, the rose bergamot is my favorite. And then let's see. I have so many. The other thing that I use a lot is bitters. And we have some non-alcoholic bitters. Traditionally, bitters are made with alcohol. I do consume bitters that do have alcohol in them, just for transparency. If I go to a bar, I'll just get sparkling water with bitters. If they have Angostura, that's great. I'm good with that. But we have All the Bitter as a brand from Chico, California. It's a husband and wife, and they were both somms at French Laundry. And they've created this brand, and it's incredible. The lavender is my favorite of their bitters line, but I also really like the aromatic. I use both of them all the time.
Wow, nice. For people that can't visit one of your events or anything, where do you buy these? Is this a grocery store thing or a liquor store thing, or where do you find them?
We have a bottle shop. It's within the self-care marketplace that's on Martin Street. So it's actually right next to where our brick and mortar was located. And it's an amazing business model. So they're open 5 days a week. They cover the staffing, which is incredible. So we do training with their team, and then people can shop there anytime. We also do same day shipping. So from our website, you can order, and then it's actually picked from the self-care marketplace. But it's great because it's right downtown and really easy. You can do pick up, order, and then pick up in store, or same day delivery. We do. It's usually 2 hours, but within 30 miles of Raleigh.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll add a link to that in our show notes too. All right, last question. What is your favorite garnish right now?
Flowers, everything, all the time.
Yeah.
So do you have flowers in your drink
Edibles.
at home? You're kicking back watching Hulu and you've got a drink with flowers on it? Because I just picture you sitting there with your drink with flowers.
Flowers, yes, all the time. I do. I'm lazy with the drinks that I make at home, but you just sprinkle dried flowers on top. It's easy peasy. So one and done on that. And yes, I do have them at my house. I also love orange peel. Yesterday I was just eating that. And not even super candied or even just not candied, but dehydrated. I love the really super bitterness of orange. But fresh flowers, as I was saying, we get these edible flowers from Goodness Grove, which is a really cool local, hyper-local small farm biodynamic in Raleigh. They have really beautiful flowers that we use for garnish for fresh flowers. So we order from them.
Nice.
I do rosemary in mine. Almost figured rosemary.
Yes. But also, if you are envisioning me at home, I don't have a TV, so I don't watch Hulu. I don't own a TV.
Oh, wow.
I quit TV.
We'll do another podcast. Okay.
I quit a lot of things. So.
Yeah. That's a step too far, I think, for me in my house. Like, yeah.
I gotta watch March Madness. It's starting soon.
I know. I'm way too addicted to watching sports of all kinds. Yeah. That'd be a test though. Could I go a week? I don't know. Maybe we'll try that at some point. Thank you so much for your time today. We look forward to seeing you in the future and see all the amazing things that you've done. Before we go, can you tell us a little bit about where to find you online?
Yeah, definitely. So it's Umbrella Dry Bar. Our Instagram is probably the most date thing that we're going to have things on. So Dry Bar on Instagram. We also have a Substack. It's Meg Paradise's Umbrella Substack. Our website is umbelladrybar.com. That has our event calendar, so you can see everything in one place. We use Eventbrite to do a lot of our events, even for the free ones. It's nice for a free RSVP. So everything's just Umbrella Dry Bar. Anywhere, LinkedIn, all those things.
Cool. So we can see pretty pictures of drinks with lots of flowers in them.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, lots.
All right. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye. All right. So we're back after talking to Meg. I'm so impressed with her ambition. She just stepped way out on a limb and took a leap of faith and is really making something work in the Raleigh area that I would have never imagined even 5 years ago.
Yeah, she's got guts. And you and I are always like, where's the grit these days? But Meg has some guts to do something like that. And I think she's obviously a very inspired human, and that inspiration is driving her to do something that's different, which is super awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of good lessons you can take from it from a business perspective. Before we talk about the alcohol side of it, Meg, not only did she take the leap, but She did it in a way where she learned as she went and was okay with making mistakes and learning from those mistakes and then getting better as she goes along. And I think even she opened up the storefront, the retail bar, and ran that for a year and then realized there was a better opportunity with a slightly different business model. And she pivoted to that, cut her overhead costs, which is a really smart thing to do. And she's got a new model that she's working on. So also just that ability to make those shifts, make those changes, and not be afraid to do it. I think a lot of times people commit and they go, I'm going to do this. And then they get stuck and let it snowball. They don't make the changes that they're looking for. So that was another thing I thought was really interesting and inspiring.
Yeah, especially for her, if she's building a business that doesn't really exist in a traditional sense. If you're doing something that's non-traditional, you can't expect there to be a playbook that's line by line. You have to be somewhat open to saying, like, I'm writing the playbook while I'm trying to follow it. And sometimes there's going to be a few lines missing. A lot of the people we work with follow that same model. You have to be open to knowing that you are the writer of the rules and you are also the one who's following the rules. And that's tricky sometimes.
That really is, especially when you're talking about something as strange as a bar without alcohol. Such a new and interesting idea. I would have never imagined that just a few years ago. Mari, what's your takeaway here?
Yeah. So my takeaway, this is going to sound lame, but I assume like non-alcoholic drinks are just juice and ice or fuzzy water, like we like to call it, and maybe there's a lime in it. So my takeaway is that non-alcoholic beverages don't have to be boring. She talked quite extensively about the types and flavors and the different layers she has put into the cocktails and the recipes. There's definitely a very science and curated craft cocktail mentality behind what she's created, what her team has created. That was a big takeaway for me, was just like, hey, it doesn't have to be juice and ice. There's a lot more to it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a bland, flavorless beer either. Even on that side, things are getting different. My takeaway, I was really interested in the single mingle night for a couple of reasons. I'm not single and I've been married for a long time. I would be afraid to be single these days with all of the challenges and everything. But this idea that you could create a space that people overwhelmingly want to come to, like she had a waiting list, people would want to come to it. She utilized some technology with an app that one of her patrons had created, and she worked together with that person and created this night where people could connect and meet each other without the shadow of alcohol in their systems. She was able to create a space that allowed people to connect without alcohol. And when I think about that, there's so many other opportunities there for that, not just with dating. Dating's a good idea, but we do a lot of networking. And I think there's so many cool networking opportunities. Every place you go to, if you go to a convention or a networking opportunity, there's always alcohol around. But wouldn't it be interesting if you could create a similar vibe in a situation without alcohol so that you actually remember the people's faces the next day? You have their business cards and you're like, who is this person again? I know I talked to them, but it was 10 o'clock and I was 4 beers in.
Yes, all those things, especially when it comes to work. You don't want to make the mistake of being 4 beers and talking to your boss or the wrong person or getting the names wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a better option in your back pocket.
Absolutely. And so I just think my mind always goes to what are the other ways you could use this and what are the opportunities? To me, there's so many opportunities to create spaces like that, utilize a little bit of technology and get people connected, whether that's dating or business or just people who have similar interests want to get together and talk. So so that was my takeaway. What are you going to quit?
So I'm going to quit thinking I should always have an alcoholic drink at an event. I don't go to a ton of events. I'm definitely not single and mingling, but there's that comfort level of feel like you have a drink and you feel like this is what I'm supposed to do when I'm here. And try to reframe my mindset of I don't always have to have a glass of wine or a beer at a networking event. I can have another option. The good thing is this kind of sober curious movement that there are other options at events that are not boring. So I think that's a really cool thing. And we talked about the idea of when you're not drinking and someone's like, why are you drinking? What's wrong? There's this thought that there's something wrong with you, like you're sick or you're pregnant or whatever. Yeah. And I think it's good for us to mix in non-alcoholic, alcohol type events to show people that everything should be acceptable and it should be fine. And it's just based on what you want to do. So that is something I'm going to try to do, is just reframe my thinking when attending other events. Start thinking about if I am hosting events or putting on something, what are some of the non-alcoholic, more interesting options that could be there? Maybe inviting Meg and Umbrella to come to one of our events so she could host for us.
Absolutely. I've already quit drinking, and so I'm done.
You're going to quit again.
I do like the taste of alcohol. I'm not going to lie about that. miss my Belgian quads every now and then, or some sort of dark beer. I do miss a good drink of bourbon. But at the same time, life changes and things happen. I made the decision because physically it makes me feel better. I have more energy. I'm not as swollen. When you drink, you went the night before and you're just, do you remember the movie Grosse Point Blank? In the 90s, it had John Cusack and Joan Cusack. It played his secretary. And they were talking about going back to their 10-year high school reunion. And she makes the comment, she said, yes, it's just as if everyone had swelled.
So true.
And now that's the way that I think of myself. If I were to have a drink or whatever, I just bloat up and I feel gross. I get all inflamed. My joints hurt. And I'm like, man, getting old. So has been a big change in my life, but a really good change in my life. I'm interested now to try dip my toes into this idea of a non-alcoholic cocktail and what that might be like, because I'm not sure that I've ever had a good one. I think I've just had this sort of juice and some fizzy water deal. So then what are you going to start to do now?
I definitely want to start trying this. We could do this together. We can get ourselves a cocktail kit. I want to try some of those non-alcoholic cocktails. I love lavender, and she talked about lavender bitters. Bitters are actually really good for your gut.
Yeah.
So some of the things she was talking about, I'm like, I need to try that. And it's funny because I've actually gifted a lot of the curious elixirs to other people who, like, I know go into dry January and it's like a thing. I've sampled a lot of that stuff. I just have not put it into practice yet, but I think that would be something fun to try. So I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I like bitters too. Just bitters and some soda water or something.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to look into the adaptogens idea. This really piqued my interest. I've changed my diet over the last year and done a bunch of other things. So I'm curious about these in general. It seems like it's not just about making you feel relaxed, a replacement for alcohol, but there could be other applications when it comes to fighting diseases or illnesses or whatever. And so I'm curious, and I know nothing about it. So it'll be something I can do a little bit of a deep dive into.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's what is that quote? Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. For some reason, we start drinking. We're like, okay, except for this. This should have no healthy benefit other than we're drinking water. We feel pretty good about ourselves, but everything else is just negative. So I think the cool thing is with a lot of these adaptogens, the things that they're mixing into these drinks actually have good health benefits. We've talked about this with coffee and the lion's mane and the mushroom coffee. There's other ways that you can get healthy supplements into your body other than taking a pill. And it sounds like what Meg was talking about is that can exist in the cocktails you have.
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting how societally we've come to think of drinks that taste good or are very flavorful as either being high in sugar and carbs and bad for you in that way, or they're alcoholic and bad for you in another way. We have these connotations that if it tastes good, there must be something wrong with it or bad for you. At least I do in my head. That feeling of water is safe and then maybe everything else is going to cause me to get cancer at some point. So yeah, it'll be interesting to explore that. But yeah, when you grow up in the South and there's a soda everywhere, I didn't drink water as a kid. We had 2 liters.
Water's gross.
We had 2 liters of things, or we made like, Kool-Aid or something.
Lemonade.
Which was just a lot of sugar and a little bit of spring.
The best thing about growing up in the South is you take something like lemonade or Red Bull or soda, and then you add the sweet alcohol that's also got sugar in it. So it's like a straight up alcoholic sugar bomb. And then you're why do I have a headache the next day? There's reasons. And
absolutely.
Alcohol has 4 cups of sugar that were mixed into your drink are also part of it.
Yeah. Or even sweet tea. Sometimes people think it's not good unless it's like syrupy consistency.
Oh, yeah. If you have 4 cups of sugar in there.
Oh, my stomach's feeling sick already. Oh, wow. That's all for today. We want to thank Meg again, and thank you to all of our listeners. We'll be back in a few weeks with another episode. Until then, I'm John.
And I'm Mari.
And we're reminding you that winners can quit and quitters can win. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the guest's own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Command Q or Uncompany.